Welcome everyone to the Euro trade. This time around, making sure that my microphone is on. So we're off to a good start. Okay. If you're here for the first time, my name is Marcus Stalker D. I have been trading for about 18 years now. 13 years out of that I've been with various prop firms back in the day when we had to go into the office. And I'm a commodities trader. I do trade a little bit of equities, mainly DAX. But my main markets are alternative markets that you don't really see covered all that much. So with that in mind, I am keeping track of copper and platinum today. We have some interesting developments, especially in platinum, in regards to that big weekly supply that I mentioned a while back. Now, actually it was a monthly supply, wasn't it? It was absolutely humongous. So there it is. And I was talking about 1240 being sort of a pivotal level of whether we are still pushing into the supply or coming out of it. Well, in the last couple of days we did have some options levels come down to 1250. So I am looking at 1250 as a potential area for shorts if we can start to struggle around there. Just looking at the daily chart, there is a nice 2-bar reversal, bearish engulfing, that's pretty strong. What makes it strong? It makes it strong that the second bar managed to close pretty confidently below the low of the first bar that stopped the whole rise into the supply. That can be a pretty decent indication that some sellers are looking at similar things that I'm looking at. But in my experience, the tests of these engulfings on the daily chart only really see a full reaction maybe the day after they test it for the first time. So the engulfing gets made, then there's the first test, and then the next day is a smash, right? So it may not happen today. Not every time, obviously not every time. It can be immediate, but we might be in for, you know, a couple of days wait until that sets up, because I do want to see it up at 1250. That is also where the average session range for London lies. So that would be a pretty decent setup for some shorts in platinum. If they start to rise it up into 1250 because of some, you know, risk event or something, obviously it will be invalidated. Any setup can be invalidated. Nothing is 100%. And this is why we have risk control. All right, let's have a look at copper now. And same thing, we're going to start from a humongously massive time frame. Monthly chart. Kind of rangy, right? With maybe a distribution. Maybe distribution up here. What does that mean? Going sideways. So it's a range. Is this potentially a bit of a double top? Maybe. But it's such a large time frame that contextually, apart from seeing a bit of a range, it's not really telling me much. Weekly chart, oh my god, can we get even more range bound? Like, what is this? Like soldiers, look at them. Like, we're sitting here. What is that? It's another consolidation, right? So yeah, I'm gonna lean on this consolidation and on this range until proven otherwise. And then we're going to see what's going on. Just give me 1 second. Just 1 second. All right, we're back. Okay, so very range bound, top of the range in copper, and yeah, so let's see if we can find some levels for shorts around here. Daily chart, stair step, slightly lower. Don't think this is much of a flag here, so let's just keep going. 4-hour chart, a bit of a liquidity grab here above the previous high from Friday, which can be a good setup, right? They hunt the nearest low or high. In this case, it's a high, but they've also done it with the lows. Look at that. So it's like, we're going lower. No, we're not. We're going higher. No, we're not. So they're probably just going to be very, very range bound here. All right. So now when I look at the intraday levels, we have the open outside of value, which from the London session Friday was at 476.75. That was the London value high. So we're, decently far away from that. A little bit over the 1%, so I'm not sure. Let's start slow. Let's start with like 3 micros in here and to try and get a little bit of push down. The initial balance is nothing to speak of. It's pretty small. But so far we're unable to hold above it, and technically this is a failed auction. London being technically the out of hour session for this product tends to be a little bit sketchy. Because it tends to create neutral days quite frequently. Yeah, Bruno is happy that I remembered to put the full screen on, because in the last few sessions I totally forgot to put the screen on, and last time, I think on Thursday, I forgot to put my mic on as well, so that was great. But yeah, so my thoughts here are that we are going to have a little bit of a move down. Maybe VWAP puts a stop to that, because the VWAP from Globex is sitting at 480.75. So not sure that we're going to go all the way down. We also have that COMEX value, which is sitting much higher. It's actually at 482.05. So that's not far at all. That's somewhere here. Now the COMEX value, usually it's not valuable until we actually have COMEX, but it can be a level of interest, especially during the overlap part. But let's just see how they behave. And maybe use this 9 EMA from a 30-minute chart as a guide to how the trend is doing. If we cannot break the low of the initial balance, that will be tricky, because that means there will be no neutral day. And if buyers get involved, that smells of strong buyers, right? But the fact that we couldn't break the gamma wall at the first try up at 485, that's good for shorts. Whether this follow through, that's a matter of context and a whole bunch of other things, right? So we're going to see whether they can push it or whether we're going to just get stuck in a quiet Monday. So far, so good. But I'm going to be in with a smaller size here and maybe scale up to another 2 micros to make it 5 if it gives me the opportunity. If it doesn't, I'm just going to trade some peanuts on a Monday, because the worst thing you can do for yourself is if you put a massive dent for yourself on a Monday morning, because it will define the rest of your week, and you just don't want to do that. If you lose small. If it's a Monday, I call it sort of the bell curve of trading activity. Start small and slow on a Monday, then if that doesn't work out, you don't have a big hole to work with. And if it does work out, you'll have a base hit. You'll have 200-300 to work with. And then, you know, into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's where, you know, I will be looking for typically star setups to try and position yourself with a little bit more size. And then towards the end of the week, same thing. We wind it down, right? You don't go into the weekend going 15 and then you wipe out the entire profit for the week. Oh, Zav is here. Nice. Good to see you, Zav. Yes, we're all good. We moved to the new house. Very happy here. It's paradise. Waking up every day. Farmer D wakes up very early now. And yeah, that's been interesting for sure. Because I've never been a lark. But in this place, there's so much light, and I go to bed really early and wake up very early, so that's great. He says, so Zav says he's currently in a long on GC from 34.3. Stops below, I below. Okay, that's a good area. Let's have a look at that. Let's have a look at gold. That is not the right dialog box. Right. Let's have a look at the monthly chart. Okay, they ignored the the little sell-off that happened. I mean, not so little, right? It's a monthly chart, but now they're going into a rally-based rally. So yeah, touching the previous month's high at 34.77. That's fairly interesting. Daily chart. Looks like a reaccumulation and more high. Hey. Gold is just such a funny thing these days. All of this is from last week. Oh, did I just delete? I did. I just deleted the visible volume profile. Ugh. Symbol search. What am I doing? I'm just like constantly going into the wrong areas. Volume, profile, visible range. That's what we want. There we go. Okay, it's back. Okay, I see some. I see a put support at 34.20. So if they can't, they weren't even able to get there. And let's have a look at the daily chart. Yeah, up, up, and up. Slightly worried about this 4-hour chart. Maybe turning trend. But let's see. This could be just a liquidity grab. Did they grab liquidity? No, not yet. Okay, let me... you see over here. It's still inside the initial balance. I mean, the fact that you're long is great. It's with the higher time frame sentiment. Just a little worried about the fact that the low from Friday's London session did not get hunted, because they love doing a stop hunt through 34.28.2 and then bringing it back. So we'll see. So just be careful. Anytime we don't have the initial balance extension, there is always quite a bit of an issue. Why volume so low? Volume is not that low on my end. I'm sitting at about -20, -15 decibels, which is the speech side of things. How do you read volume? Not the stream volume. Obviously the trading volume. there's a couple ways. I'm not really somebody who's like super analyzing volume all the time. I just use it as a supportive factor. The volume analyst in Topstep that you really want to pay attention to is Coach Jay, because he is like the best volume analysis that I've seen to date in my sort of 18 years of doing this. Not only does he use it himself, but he also has a very good way of explaining how to use it without confusing the hell out of everybody. Here's the problem whenever I look at some of the people who are not great teachers. They might be like great traders, but they're not necessarily good teachers. You sit down and you ask them to, explain a concept. And they go, well, you've got this high and then you've got that low. And then when it gets to here and then it gets to the 50% and that's your entry. And you're like, very clear, cool story, bro. Right? So teaching something that you do clearly is a skill in and of itself, right? And what I really love about Jay is that when he's explaining it to you, it's like super clear, right? That's like invaluable. But, I can tell you how I'm using it. I use volume in like a twofold way, I suppose. There is the volume profile. And with the volume profile, I do look at things like the low volume nodes and high volume nodes. But in a way, I can see the same information through just looking at candlestick charts and looking at the concept known as supply and demand institutional order flow. What is it? It's basically how the institutions are creating the formations of the price, how the price leaves it, and then as if by accident, you get a high volume node, and that's this big sticky outy area here that you can see on this visible volume range. And therefore, usually you have some sort of a concept of a volume point of control, but I don't use volume point of control on a super large time frame to tell me exactly where I should be getting in. If there is an interesting level there intraday, I might go, okay, well, on a 4-hour chart, the middle of this entire formation within a high volume area is now located at 34.50, let's say, on GC. That could be hard to break. And therefore, I would be looking for maybe shorts to play into the whole analysis. But with the volume point of control, I really use it on a very low time frame to tell me whether we're moving up or down immediately. So for example, if I look at it on a 2-minute chart, right now I can see that it's sitting at 34.34. If the volume point of control starts moving higher, that would give me more confidence in Zav's trade. He's long, and then I would be like, okay, let's give it some time, because volume POC on a super small time frame has moved higher, and we've just seen that happen, right? That's like an indicator, real-time indicator that they're moving the price and value in the same sort of direction. It's not foolproof. You also need context. But yeah. Anyway, second way that I use volume is if I'm looking at, let's say, a breakout up or down. Let's see which one of these might be a better opportunity. So look at the 5-minute chart. No. So let's say now I'm looking at a breakout to the downside in copper. This is a 15-minute time frame. What do I want to see? Well, first and foremost, I do want to see them picking up speed to the downside. There was a big reversal. This is what the failed auctions look like. So attempted move higher, quick reversal, and then already in the next candle, we're basically sitting more than halfway through the initial bounce range. In order for me to say this is going to be a mean reversion down to value area from London, which is 76.75, so much lower, somewhere down here. I would need to see a commitment in the shorts growing above this volume MA. This is a volume moving average. And to roughly stay above there. If we start to kind of drop off in volume and nothing's happening, it's going to make me a little bit suspicious about the mean reversion and the neutral day continuation in a single direction, which is in and of itself an outlier, right? But not so much of an outlier when you're working with not a regular trading hour session, right? This is an out of hour session, so we expect the volumes to be a little bit sketchy at times. But for the continuation of my idea that we're going to go lower, I'm in a, not in a great location if I'm looking at a failed auction, because if I was fishing just for a failed auction, I should have been up nearer the initial balance. But this is not that kind of a trade. I'm actually looking for a mean reversion extension, possibly into the average session low. And volume needs to eventually keep pushing in the same direction, not necessarily continuously increasing, but just kind of staying in ballpark the same sort of range. If I get smaller volume, but it's also red, what I tend to do is to maybe ballpark add up the candles that are still red, and then see whether they're still pushing above the previous candle, because that can give rise to a momentum. So those are a couple of ways that I use volume. Very basic, nothing, nothing like, wow, you've just blown our minds. It's just like, is the previous candle bigger than the one that we had, the one that we have now? And is the cumulative volume of the trends, let's say all shorts, so all red candles, also giving rise to momentum and adding up to the previous candles, very, very basic stuff. So yeah. Zav Trades said, Deeyana, Topstep micro GC, does it show C period breaking IB? I go to my MT5 and your Blatic indicator data feed from AMP always. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at I also look at CQG, which is AMP. So micros sometimes will differ from the full contract, right? Because it's a derivative of a derivative, right? Futures are already a derivative, and then you go, oh, let's do a micro, and that's all based on the full contract. So yeah, see, micro does show the break, but full contract doesn't, which means it didn't break it enough. Yeah, so full contract, you see, not quite big enough to show a full tick. This was like, I don't know, half tick or something. I like to reference the main chart. This is why even when I'm trading micros, you will frequently see me, like now I'm in micro copper, but you will frequently see me do this, like have, full contract on one side and then a micro on the other, because I want to be basing my decisions on what they do in the full contract, not in the micro, even though I am expressing my position in micros sometimes. Yeah, so Bad Mouse is correct. Micro is a full-blown retail trading against market makers. No big money goes there. Yeah. Another reason to look at the full contract, right? I'm still looking for symbol changes in looking for symbol changes in the time frame area. Great going, D. This is still a bit tricky on GC. I like the way copper looks on a 30-minute chart, though. Nice sort of turn around. Shooting star. Follow through. Let's see if they can crack Asia high, because they went above it as if somebody was chasing them, and then they were like, whoops, too high up, we cannot go up. We've fallen and we cannot go up. But yeah, let's see what they do here. I reckon they're gonna, excuse my language, dick around in this area for a bit before they decide whether they're gonna go up or down. But yeah, let's see. What is going on with World War III? Well, I hope nothing. Jesus. I don't know. I'm somebody who's been through 3 civil wars. So, you know, if war comes, we're going to have to, you know, get ready. But these days, wars are nearly always fought from the air. So it's not like, you know, let me get my leather pauldrons and a machete and go outside, start waving. Usually it's just people in their homes, somebody sending missiles out, and everybody being absolutely terrified whilst things are happening. So, you know, it's not like the old style close quarter fighting. You know, I really doubt that we will ever see that again. Just a whole bunch of planes flying around and throwing missiles and stuff. So, you know, for me, it won't be anything super new. I hope it doesn't get to that point. But, yeah, I mean, anytime there's conflicts in the world, there is always that worry. Even when we had our civil wars and Russia was kind of supporting us and us. If you don't know much about me, I am born and raised Serbian, Yugoslavian actually, when I was born in 1980. But then over the next 20 years or so, the country fell apart and stopped calling themselves the Social Federative Republic of Yugoslavia, and then started splitting up in like 6 different countries. And even then, when Russia was kind of trying to explain some things to, you know, the Western society, that maybe, you know, they kind of got it a little bit wrong this time around, and they would not listen or anything. And, you know, there's this whole thing that happened. I'm not going to go into it, but basically, don't believe everything that you see on TV. And I've always taken any sort of news with a pinch of salt. I don't claim to know anything about the conflict in Israel, right? So it's not my scene. I do hope it doesn't get to anything super serious. But if it does, you will adapt. I can promise you that, because I thought that when we heard that my city is going to be bombed, that's going to be, you know, awful. And it was, you know, it was one of the biggest traumas that I've gone through in my life. But I actually these days see it as kind of a hallmark of somebody who has been faced with mortality, and because of that, I'm able to be a trader that doesn't react to things the same way. So as long as you know, they're not sort of carpet bombing everything, they're usually very selective with the type of targets that they take. So I can tell you that as somebody who has been through 3 different wars. So they're not just going to go after like any old residential area and just go, you know, full on. It's always going to be military. It's always going to be like, you know, sites where you know, they perceive it to be either part of the infrastructure, so that they can mess you up without electricity and stuff and water and all of that. But other than that, the way the modern warfare is today is very, very different the way it was in World War II. So yeah, we'll adapt if it comes to that. We'll be all right. Zap trades D is unfazed. Yeah, man. I mean, this is the thing where people think I'm a psychopath, right? They're like, D, but we might have World War III. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, look, it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant. And it does weird things to you when you're going through, hearing a bomb fall not too far from your house. But we adapt. Humans are incredibly adaptive. This is why we can't do trading, right? It's not because we're like, the most evolved animals or whatever. No, it's the fact that our brains are incredibly adaptive, and you adapt to the weirdest crap in your life that you never thought would be something that would that you would even be strong enough to deal with, right? And then you adapt, and then you're like, okay, this is my new reality now. Let's go. Why is the market up today? More buyers than sellers, or faster buyers than sellers. App J says, do you focus on the market when trading, or do you look at different markets? I actually look at all sorts of different markets. I have the tab with equities. I have the tab with metals. I have the tab with energies. And that gives me an overview of a whole bunch of things. But what I suggest people doing that, if they're newer traders, don't. Please don't. Just hone your skills on one or two things. You don't need a million markets, especially those of you trading NQ. NQ moves really well on most days. If you're obsessed with NQ, just stick with it. If you find it tricky and you can't control your emotions, go to YM or ES. YM is probably better suited for former NQ junkies because it still moves a lot, but it's not as spaz intra-candle. Whereas ES, some people go from NQ to ES and they're like, oh, it's so slow. It's so slow. I like DAX personally, and I'm still hoping that we're going to get DAX in Topstep at some point. Let me see if they've changed the date on that post that we were all looking for. Yeah, there's a new computer, so I don't have all my links that I used to have. So look here. Yeah, guys, we're not getting Eurex, unfortunately. Look at that. They just keep moving it. It was July 2025, and it's like, great. So yeah, that ain't happening. Oh well, that's a bit disappointing, but it is what it is. Okay, let's have a look at the other questions. Is GC a good product to trade during the London session hours? I've traded it during Asia, which moves quite well. Been my bread and butter. So just stick to that. Why are you looking for another session to trade? If you've got something that's doing well. I find it a bit sketchy during, like, it's very hit and miss. Some days it works brilliantly, but on most days when I sit down to look at the London session, this is what it does. And just to give you an idea of why Eurex and DAX are so good, let me just find it here. It's because while everything else is quite quiet, we have DAX, well, okay, I didn't change the contract because I didn't trade it yet today. DAX has already moved 125 ticks, and we're not even like barely 2 hours into the session. But let's move into the next contract because it's rolling. Although is it rolling? I would argue that this is not a rolled contract. So I'm going to stay on the other one for now until we definitely roll. Can we go back? Yeah, there we go. Until this starts looking patchy or we definitely get to the date of the rollover, I'm going to stay on the M, on the June. I think the US equities are rolled though. Definitely. So yeah. So that's, you know, a little bit difficult when you don't have Eurex products that everybody in London trades. And I was kind of hoping that we're going to get it after a year of doing these sessions, but doesn't look like it. They're just focusing on American markets, which is all right. Oh, us over here in Europe, we're just feeling a bit neglected. How do you know when the right time to size up is? When you have zero emotional involvement on your current size, you have enough buffer in your account, and then you also try sizing up a little bit, like instead of going to full 1 to 2 or whatever, like what size are you trying to size up from? Let's ask that question first. What are the best products to trade during the London session? Because I primarily traded M&Q, but it's always dead during London. Well, DAX, but we don't have it here. My second choice would be copper. Sometimes platinum, if it's in the time of the year, because there's a seasonal aspect to it. But yeah, so copper, for me, has been really good during the London session. If I do anything, it's, you know, 8 times out of 10 it's going to be copper. 6E is not the best option for anybody. It's been dead for so many years, and I would argue it's still not that great. Let's have a look. I know it's been a little better last year. Ever since they started to raise rates. But everybody's raising rates in uniform, so it's like, it's not really... Let's have a look at how that looks over here. Yeah, it's a little quiet still. Did Euro roll as well? Can somebody tell me? Well, I can see it actually. Yeah, I think it rolled. Yeah, so here's what we're working with on the Euro. I mean, 2.5 hours into this and we've moved 39 ticks. Every time there's risk on or risk off, it moves. If there's no risk on, risk off, it takes its sorry time and then moves after the signal, because that's what you want. Moves about maybe 30 to 50 ticks and then reverses. I don't know, man. It just looks very sketchy still. Euro. You know, you want to see like 150, 180 per session on the average session range. I'm just not seeing that in the currencies. The currencies have just been so odd for me for the last 12 years. I'm trying to size up from 5 micros to 3 minis. That, I can tell you right now, is immediately too much size right off the bat. You're jumping from... and also beware that... so you're jumping from 5 to effectively 30 micros. That's 6 times increase in size. That's too much. That is going to decimate whatever buffer you have in the account, unless we're talking $250,000. Because on 3 lots, no. I just saw the comment about a 6K buffer. No. 6K on 3 minis on NQ. You're gonna lose it in a day, in like 3 trades. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's ridiculous. I can't even say that. Okay. Guys, do you know the margin requirements, like the initial margin requirements that all brokerages have? The reason why our accounts are called 50K, 100K, 150K. That is the size that you would need to have of actual buffer, actual money, to be able to trade that size with a brokerage. And even that, with all the new margin requirements, because they've increased them a lot, that's not true anymore. Like a 50K account should now be called a 150K account if we're going to go by nominal value. But trying to trade 3 minis on a 6K buffer, it's like, just go and take the 6K and just throw them out the window right now. At least somebody else is going to have use out of that money. Just don't do it. Like, I'm being serious. If it goes wrong, you will lose all of your hard work that you've put into generating 6K. And 6K is a lot of cash for some people. You can pay off debts. It can, you know, pay your mortgage for like a few months. Like, why do you rush to throw it out of the window by sizing up too quickly? It's like, what's the rush? If you got a train to catch, do you want to be doing this for the next 30 years, or do you want to blow out like tomorrow and then never do this again? I don't get it. Like, it's like, what? This new generation of traders, everybody wants to be there yesterday. It's not how it works. Let me ask this question. If you were training to be a doctor and you just got into pre-med, right? So you're like, you sort of know how the body works, but you don't have any specialty. And yet you go, hey, I'm going to start doing surgery now because, you know, I'm pre-med. That's effectively what's going on here. So you go and you try to perform a higher pressure skill that is not the same as, you know, chopping up frogs in a lab, but actually operating on the real person. That's what you're doing when you're trying to trade with more size. Just because it's a click of a button, it doesn't mean that up here we don't have to have like some really sophisticated coping mechanisms in order to trade with more size. Every time you increase the size, even by a double, which is crazy. Again, I would be, you know, I was expecting like, oh, I want to go from 5 micros to like maybe, you know, maybe 7 micros, and you go from 5 micros to 3 minis, and I'm like, just like, what? How to fail in a day or less. So yeah. Marcus is saying, that's like a cat owner deciding he's ready to have 3 bears as pets. Exactly. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Gold, liquidity grab. Yeah, quite possibly. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, gold just looks like liquidity grab both sides, to be honest. It's just like, we're going nowhere. We're still inside the initial balance. It's Monday. We're all hungover from the weekend. So yeah, gold just looks hungover to me. It might move in the overlap, you know, but right now it's not even able to go above this 9 EMA on a 30-minute chart. Like, it gets there and goes, wow, oh, we need more size. Where's more size? And they're like, we're asleep. Leave us alone. We'll be awake later. But yeah, I'm guessing maybe they want to get to the put support at 34.20. Then at that point, gold might actually pick up some speed, because I would expect some market makers to be stalking, sitting there and going, all right, let's take everybody's money now and push it back up. Badmouth says, I've looked at DAX for the last few days. It's not bad for sure if you don't compare ticks but points to yeah. So with like, look, NQ is a crazy bastard, right? NQ moves like 1,500 ticks to 2,000. Sorry, yeah, 1,500 ticks to 2,000 ticks per day. It's crazy. And then when it's quiet, it's like, oh, we only have 700 ticks. Like, every other product on earth moves between like 150 to maybe 300, but NQ is its own animal, right? It's like, yeah. So I look at the movement just like you do, but mouse in ticks, in points rather than ticks, and then that equates. Like, for example, if I was to trade NQ actively, I wouldn't use anything less than 35 points, which to me, with the speed and the amount of movement that you get in NQ, is equivalent to using, let's say, 35 ticks in copper. Exactly the same. So that's 18 points in copper, 35 ticks, but 140 or 120 ticks in NQ, that's equivalent to 35 points elsewhere. So, I do agree with that. So comparing points and ticks, it depends on what you're looking at. And with NQ, it's just so bonkers that it's like, really. No, look, NGU futures, you don't have to stick to 5 micros, but we're talking about sizing up. Size up from 5 to 7 micros and see how you get on, right? And then if you're not bothered by that and you still manage to make more money, size up from 7 to 1 mini or 10 micros if you're scaling in and out. Depends on how you're trading. I don't know how you trade. So there's ways around it. Yeah. Alright, so we have a little bit of movement on copper. I like to move it. I like to move it. Dee doing random songs. Was that Madagascar? Was that the animation? And Nate says, I add 1 micro every time I double my money. That's a great way to go about it. That's very, very sensible and a sustainable way to grow, right? So you double the money, add 1 micro, double the money. I know that everybody wants to be there yesterday, but there are progressions to growing the account, your bank balance, and I'm sorry, but anything below sort of like 20, 30K, you should not be anywhere near a mini. Between 20 and 30K, you're like, meh, okay, let's maybe size up a bit. Up to 1 mini or 10 micros if you can. But here's the thing, on the live accounts, we still don't have the 10-to-1 scaling. So when you get into a live, usually they will cap you for the first, whatever. So it's going to be, it's going to be an adjustment. So whenever I want to run a micro and a mini, like let's say maybe one mini in, I don't know, natural gas, and then all the rest of it, I have to be 4 micros in whatever other micro I'm looking at, like copper and stuff. So I've got to be mindful of that. I haven't requested an increase yet. It's only new. Like I've just came into the live recently, so slow and steady. Bad Mouse says, I find it honestly amusing how people have fixed lot size. I trade from 2 minis NQ to 1 micro, depending on volatility. Yeah, me too. Me too. But, you know, we are talking about somebody here asking whether they can, how, you know, to size up and when to size up. And then they threw 5 micros to 3 minis at us. But yeah, obviously, if I can, you know, tighten things up and if I see that it's a quieter day and that I've sniped it from a liquidity grab, I can easily use a 14 tick stop in some cases, and then I will be in with like 2 minis. But if I have to use wider stops, if I'm working off a 30-minute chart, then I will use either sort of up to 5 micros or 1 mini. So, you know, it really depends. But yeah, I do scale my stops to the volatility. Definitely. That's what I teach, right? That's why why you sometimes see me trading minis, sometimes I'm trading micros, and they're like, D, what are you doing? It's like scaling the position size to the stop loss required, to the structure and the day type. Anything else? Oscar says, I'm feeling down today. I went to the river last weekend. I took a cold shower, and my blood pressure is really low. I slept for 12 hours straight from yesterday afternoon until 8 in the morning. Why are you feeling low, Oscar? What's going on? I mean, at least your blood pressure is not high. You know, that would probably be the worst of the two. Are you feeling depressed about anything in particular in your life, or is it just trading that's getting you down? If it's trading, dude, it's not worth it. Like, seriously. It's just a bit of money. So, you know, share with us. We can maybe help, you know. I don't want to see anyone feeling down because of trading. Trading should be something you're excited about. You know, it should be, you know, maybe you've got other things going on in your life. So, yeah. Bad Mouse says, size is not important. Dollar risk per trade. I would not risk more than 10% of my daily drawdown in one trade. On my own account, to trade 1 to 2%. Yeah, Bad Mouse, I'm even worse than that. I trade 0.3% per trade on my account. So, and Bad Mouse also says, Oscar, take some coffee and chocolate, but don't take Viagra. Why not? Maybe that's exactly what he needs, you know? Bit of physical release. Bit of dopamine. Yeah, Oscar, maybe you're going through some low dopamine levels. I don't know, you know, do you suffer from depressive thoughts and stuff? Because honestly, if you do, I know that I joke around with trolls all the time, like, oh yeah, take your meds, and then they get really irate and they go, oh, but have you taken your meds? It's like, yes, thank you. Have you? But honestly, medication doesn't have to be this big bad wolf. It's like, it's there to help if somebody has an imbalance in the brain. Like, you can't trade from, it's like if you have a broken arm, you can't go doing bench presses until that arm is fixed. And just because it's in our brains, we think it's not relevant to fix it. But there are very good pathways, you know, but you do need to figure out whether it's just a random thing, just a one-off. Oh yeah, your, you know, blood pressure is low and you feel a bit down. Or whether there's something else going on, you know. Please take care of your health. That's the only thing we have, really. Never mind money, never mind houses, you know. If you don't have your health, you literally have nothing. Don't smoke a joint. Freddie, stop telling people to take drugs of that sort. I'm not talking recreational drugs. I'm talking, you know, drugs that can help with people who truly have bipolar, depressive disorders and all that. You know, ADHD. A lot of people have ADHD these days, so And if it goes untreated, yeah, that can be a roller coaster. That's, you know. Oh, Bad Mouse, you're all good. Yeah, you're all good. Yeah, I like your comments actually. So yeah, hopefully joining my stream where I do random random songs. Yesterday, today is I like to move it. But last week we had Danger Zone. Gonna take a highway to the danger zone. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that makes you laugh. Hopefully that makes you laugh. Yeah, there you go. I'm even making jokey songs here for Oscar. Sid Moran says, my maximum loss for the day I have is 1%. 1% compared to what? The entire account buffer, maximum drawdown in the starting position. Like, I have so many questions. What symbol is copper? Depends on where you're at. So on TopstepX, it's HG. On CQG, it's actually CP for some very strange reason. But CQG has always had bit like screwy names and symbols. They were always like a bit special. However, it's the best data feed though. I find CQG to be very, very reliable, so we use it for all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Chef Trade says, I hear that song Danger Zone. I want to put on my helmet and drive super fast in my car. It's a good song though. It's definitely a good one. Is Johnny says, hey Deeyana, how can we use the volume profile that you have on the side? So I've spoken about this a couple times. Whoa, okay, gold has shown some interest here. Are we? We're not even at the overlap yet. Okay. So let's hope this is sustained reversal finally, so they can go up to that VWAP. You have a couple of ways of using the volume profile. I use it from the point of view of high volume nodes and low volume nodes. I do like to use it 4 weeks worth, I'll be honest, for like larger time frame analysis. So if I drag out this chart, which is my main charting thing, you will see this thing on the right. That is my big old 4-week volume profile, and I can see even on my SD chart there is a demand area right at this high volume node, so it kind of helps me to figure out where they might go to next. Now, whenever you have new areas, like we're at all-time highs on GC, there is one area up here on VWAP that has a little bit of a higher volume node. But if you get up to areas where there's nothing, I then go straight to the options levels, because the only way to gauge interest up at the area where we've never been before is to see what the market makers are thinking and where they're positioning. And right now we have the put support down at 3420, and then we have the big boy at 3500, which is a core resistance, both from like general options and 0 DTEs, and the gamma wall for 0 DTEs as well. So it might be that they shoot for that at some point this week. But right now, Monday is starting out horrifically slow on GC. I'm glad I picked copper for this time of day, because at least I'm getting some movement here. Yeah, Sandy, my sister, us too, with low blood pressure all of our lives, but unfortunately my blood pressure is going a bit messy with my ME. So it's no longer that low. It's now normal, which for me is high, actually. It's a bit of a weird situation. Like everybody else is like, oh, 120, it's fine. And I'm like, 120, I feel like my heart is about to jump out of my chest, dude. Porn, I'm not interested in crude oil today. Once every 2 weeks is enough for me on crude oil. I had a decent trade on crude oil. Was it Friday? I don't know. I'm like Drew Barrymore in 51st Dates when it comes to trades. Like, I know I did a crude oil trade. I know it was all right. So, you know, now I won't be touching crude oil, especially not now that we have the rollover. So crude oil is coming into the, actually tomorrow should be the rollover. And I ain't touching that. Because in crude oil, anything that rolls every month, right? You get like 3 weeks of decent price action, and decent price action in crude oil today is like kind of an oxymoron because it almost never has good price action. So yeah, I'm very kind of picky and, you know, touchy with crude oil. I'm like, usually it's got the vom factor to it, but you know, last week, that one day, I was like, oh, that actually looks all right. It was a big run up, and then they couldn't crack it further for the overnight session. So I was like, I'm gonna short this, and it worked. Platinum pumping, yeah, platinum. I'm looking for it to test 1250 and then stop. But platinum, I'm going to wait until COMEX. Because I already have a position on for London, and I want to just build, you know, a bit of a buffer, just like dip a toe, like 100 or 200 in the bank, and then see if I actually have anything today. And if I don't, I'm okay having a base hit on a Monday. So yeah. But yeah, if they don't sell off from 1250, I don't want it. I don't have any desire to long platinum at these levels, at least not unless we like fall a lot and then we get to sort of the overlap between the sessions or something, and I'm like, okay, well, now we go long. But you know, the way it's going now is just like, it's just a bit icky for longs to me. So we'll see what happens. This is the average session. Let's go back to a platinum chart, actually. Never mind the snail that is gold. But here's what I had marked. London average session range high and a core resistance gamma wall at 1250. I know that I have that big supply from the monthly chart. The edge of that supply is 1240, 1242, roughly. So really, I would be looking for this to exit again and to roll over. But I'm not in a rush. I'm not rushing. I'm just chilling out. Happy with my MHGN, with my micro copper trade here. And actually, if we get to the end of the stream, and this is anywhere near ASR low, I would actually be pretty happy with just like 95 ticks of profit there. Again, it's a very small, you know, start to the week. You know, I'm just using 3 micros just in case they didn't do anything with it, but for now they're kind of moving it, so it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I've slept really well, by the way. That's why I'm like, I also slept for like a long time. I think I slept for 9 hours. I went to bed like a chicken, like a hen, at I think it was like 9:30. It wasn't even like fully dark outside. I was just like, I'm really tired, and then I went to bed and I slept all the way. All of my dogs let me sleep through till like 8:30 this morning. It was amazing. Bad Mouse says interesting stuff, but I look at options too. Do you look at futures options or ETF options? I like to look at, so ETFs are more really for equities. You know, I find that looking at ETFs and something like USO for like crude oil and stuff, it's not like, first of all, it doesn't even trade 23 hours. It just trades for the regular trading hours. And yet I trade London. So it's like, what possible thing could I derive from an ETF if it's not even open for the hours that I'm looking at? So I look at outright futures and I look at end of day for my instruments. Sometimes on ES, if I'm gonna get involved with ES analysis and also DAX, I do use intraday levels from SPX on days when ES goes nuts in one direction. So therefore end of day levels just get left in the dust. So then I will look at what the intraday sentiment and gamma exposure is. But other than that, again, I use options very simplistically. There's nothing. My most elaborate strategies involve the intraday trading, because to me intraday requires the most amount of skill, because it's very sensitive to any inconsistencies you might have. Anything I add on top of that, it's all just to help with the situational awareness. And it might look fancy, but after 18 years, it does look fancy. It's like it is what it is, but it helps me. And I have successfully taught this to many other people as well. So there's something to be said about situational awareness, right? VWAP. Again, that danger zone. VWAP is a danger zone on copper, so we'll see. So far, they seem to be just bleeding through it like it's not there. It's like, VWAP? What VWAP? We don't know what VWAP is. And just you wait. As I say that, they're going to whip it back up to the initial bounce low. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. I'm going to scale out of 1. Okay. Here's Johnny says, what levels are your take profit set at, if you don't mind me asking, and why are they there? On my copper trade, I have the average session range target for the London session. So that's where my target is. Again, it's Monday. My targets will change contextually. So sometimes my target will be the opposite side of initial balance. If it's a big-ish or normal sized initial balance. This one was too small for the size of the range that we have. So I'm extending it because I'm looking at more of a mean reversion trade. And that's even lower, but I don't know whether we're going to get there in one go during the stream. And I'm trying to sort of get the trade in during the stream, so that once I'm off the stream, I can actually have a bit of time to rest before the next session. Don't know my schedule yet for this week, so for the main broadcast, so I need to be mindful of that. And whenever you are working on a show like we are, we work on TopstepTV. Some of us have our own shows. You have to be really mindful about your mental capital. So, if I'm running a show at 9:30 a.m. my time, but I know that I'm going to be on at like 6 or 7 p.m. Later on during the main broadcast, I need to be fresh in my head for when that time comes, so that I'm not like completely wiped and just going, oh, hello, JD, what's up? Marie, can you just talk for me because I'm just wiped? You can't do that, so you have to make sure to get a nap in somewhere. But yeah. And my dogs are going bonkers at absolutely nothing again. I'm guessing they saw a bird around the back of the house and they're like, DEFCON 1! Stranger danger! And somebody's howling. They're such idiots. Like, seriously, they just go outside. They, what is it? Oh, it's a pheasant. Yeah. Hi, any website where I can find options chain or data? Yes, you can find it on MentorQ. I'm not their affiliate or anything like that. I have appeared on MentorQ webinars. We like Fabio. We like Patrick. Anne Maria and I have both been with MentorQ as guests. So they dumb down the whole options chain to a single line on the chart, and they have some really good videos on how to use them. But just know that any options level can be a stopping point as well as an accelerator. So it does take contextual awareness to figure out, you know, exactly what's going to happen. Because I've seen some people going for comments and going, oh, I'm just watching like these GEX levels get run through, like it just goes up and down through them like nothing. It was like, it's a level like any other, and depending on the level of interest that can change intraday. Obviously the level's relevance and weight can definitely change. Never mind that. Come on. Be quiet, Mimi. Let them bark. Let them bark. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. Bad Mouse says delta hedges and options levels attract volume. Yeah, I would argue that these days, with the amount of volume coming from, especially zero DTEs, even in something like crude oil, like we've come up to like 35-40% of daily volume, and ES has gone over 50%. It's like, so if you're not looking at that data, I do feel like you're at a disadvantage. I've even included it in my method. What are they barking at? They're literally around the back of the house, which is where my office is here, and they're barking at absolutely nothing. I promise you there's nothing there. There's like woodland, and there is a wall, but they can't really see out. So it's like, what? Dogs, just settle the F down. Yeah. Who let the dogs out? Yeah. Anyways, yeah, corporate trade doing well. I am getting a bit bored of it though. So let's just see. Of course, Matty with his yappy. And then we have Bernard. Bernard is like, I'm a big dog. And he is a bit bigger. He's like 14 kilos. That's like 28 pounds, almost 30 pounds. So he's a size. He's almost like a size of a small Labrador, and they're all siblings. So I don't know why he came out that big. And then we have the mini Manny, who's like tiny, at like 14 pounds, and also sounds very yappy. Thomas Kane says, my dogs set each other off over nothing. Same here. I've got 8. One of them is deaf, the dad, because he's old. But the rest of them, one of them barks and the other one are barking and they don't know what the other one's barking at. Especially the mom, who's a Pomeranian. She would bark at anything. Luckily, her voice doesn't carry much, so that's all right. But, you know, one of them barks and she's just like, and they're barking over there and she's barking over there. And I'm like, that's not where the bird was. It's the other side. All right, if we can get this ASR low, I'll be happy with that. But if we don't, by the end of the stream, I will cut this wherever it is, because I'm getting tired of it now. Bad Mouse says, my dog is 3 kilos, 3-year-old Maltipoo. Oh, that's so cute. That's so cute. Mine are 6 Cavalier Poms, so Cavalier Pomeranian crosses. 1 Pomeranian mom and a King Charles Cavalier dad. Because we were told we were going to have 2 puppies on the scan, and then it was lockdowns and 6 of them came out. So we were like, yeah, we were naming them as they were coming out, so they weren't going anywhere. We didn't even prepare ourselves for anything, and I can't sell dogs, so that is why I'm never having puppies again. Because I'll end up with like 20 dogs. So there are babies. How do we determine Asian and London highs and lows when it's an NY based market? So Madman, that's a very good question. I would probably take the entirety, like if there's a defined Asia high and let's say London low or something, those would be 2 different things. But if you had an Asia high and then London carried on the high, I would just take the London high as a reference, as an overnight high, smushing the two together. Again, a little bit contextual. But you know, if it was like up and down, and then one session had more of a trend than another one and more defined swing, that's the one. What the hell's that? Is that a helicopter? That's the first time I've heard that. Okay, interesting. Give me just 1 second. Okay, you're gonna laugh. Not a helicopter, it's my gardener mowing the bloody lawn. I've seen them, of course. We hired somebody to come and do the. God, I'm such an idiot. Yeah, totally forgot they're turning up and that they're gonna be doing that during my stream. So apologies for any disruptions. Just like random person walking in my garden. I'm like, who's that? And I'm like, were dogs right to bark? Do we? But there's nowhere for them to go in. Like we have to let them in. So yeah, danger zone. That's it. Danger zone. Yeah. No, it was the MIBs coming to get me for this good copper trade. Yeah, they're coming to take me away. Too many good trading setups. Eric says, just tuning in. Did you see a head and shoulders for this short? What was the reasoning behind this copper trade? It was the core resistance not being able to get smashed, and then we went into a failed auction and started rotating. So this happened a little bit quicker. But yeah, I saw an opportunity for mean reversion back down to at least. Well, VWAP was actually my first target, but we kind of just bled straight through it. So now I'm looking at average session range low. If it starts to rise back up, I don't really want it. And I'm probably just going to clip another one there and then get out of it altogether if they don't hold it. If they don't keep going down towards the London value low. So it's a mean reversion trade with a bit of assistance from the gamma wall that I saw at 485 from the end of day options chain and a failed auction there. So chef trades, yeah, they were barking at people in our garden for sure. Yeah. They were right. Stranger danger. Right? We've never seen these people before. Who are they? What are the Asian timings in futures markets and London? So I consider Tokyo as the futures market, even though Shanghai Exchange is probably bigger. But don't know where you are in the world, so I am going to use just the GMT for that purpose. So midnight in London, that is Tokyo beginning, and then it ends at 7 a.m. London. London timings start an hour after that, so 8 a.m. But I consider the London session until we kick off the main session. For copper, that would be COMEX, which starts at 1:30 p.m. my time. But some people like to include the entirety of the London session, which cuts off at 4:30 p.m. London time. I slightly disagree with that. Why? Because we're mixing apples and oranges. You now are mixing the 2 hours when COMEX has the highest volume with the London players. So I don't like that, and in all of my mechanical trading systems we will cut off the London session at COMEX start if we're trading COMEX products, NYMEX start if we're trading NYMEX products, and New York Stock Exchange if we're trading equities. So hope that helps. Trading nickels. If dogs could speak. Owner. There's nothing there. Dog. You think that's nothing? Roof. Yeah. Yeah, it's like we have pheasants sometimes in the garden here, and I'm like, yeah, it's a bird, and they're like, somebody's attacking us! Oh my god! And it's like, you're gonna get a heart attack. Like, stop it. Yeah, I mean, PL Platinum is indeed extended. I agree. I mean, I felt it was extended on Friday, to be honest, and I only nabbed a little bit of this. I didn't nab a lot of it because I was in on that crude trade, and then I also got into a copper trade. Was I in a copper trade? I think I was, yeah. So by the time that all of that was happening, I was like, you know what? I have enough trades on. So, no more. But yeah, if this gets going, maybe that will be my Comex trade. Short continuation. What shall I say? How do you see the ES 500? I'm short, entered overbought territory, expected downward trend. You know what? With equities, I'm always a bit... I don't have ES on my live, so... I have YM though. How similar are they? Hold on. Because I don't pay for ES. It's not one of my main products. I mean, they're sort of similar. So let's do it. I can bring ES over from my other platform. If I can find it. If I can find it. Where's my ES gone? Hold on. For some reason I managed to close it. Okay. It's a new contract anyways, so let's go APU. There it is. Let me just load up the template. Alright, copper almost. Almost there. Go copper, go copper, go, go, go. So we still are working with this localized low here. But I'm kind of hoping they want to do a liquidity grab from there, and then that'll be my target. Liquidity grab. Grab some liquidity. Let's see what the ES is looking like on the weekly. And what the YM is looking like on the weekly. Let's do a little bit of analysis. Okay, so weekly chart very range bound. Same with ES. Exactly the same. I mean, very, very similar, right? If anything, YM is flatter than ES. I am going to take another one of these and just leave the final one. So I kind of booked most of that. And then if whatever happens here, I don't really care. But I will protect the rest of it just in case they want to go and grab it up here. So wouldn't want this last one to go all the way. But also what I'm going to do, just in case they keep going lower, is to have my next target down here. So that if they extend, that's like no risk to me. Either way, I couldn't care less what happens with this trade now. Okay, so back to ES. Back to equities. Daily chart. I don't know, man. They tried to go lower. Buying wick on the daily chart. They're now pushing back into the supply. We do have some gamma ball and another core resistance in a pretty tight range from 61.20 all the way up to 61.50. Yeah, I don't know. It looks a bit sketchy though. Lots of overlapping candles. We've just rolled. Anytime there's a new contract rollover in equities and they can find an excuse as to why they want to go higher, they're probably going to go higher. Because unless it's a semi-apocalypse for real, any good news, they'll be like, yes, let's pump the brakes. Let's pump the gas. Let's go. Step on it. Come on. Let's go higher, higher, and higher. It's just equities are so resilient to everything. So 4-hour chart, again, difficult. So I would be looking at what happens sort of in that 61.25 area up here. You know, maybe if we get up there, liquidity grab on the daily, then a bit of a sell-off for an intraday setup. I could see that happening. Other than that, it's just like, it's an equity index, so be careful with shorts. Unless it's risk off, then you can go, all right, let's do it. But otherwise, it's very tricky shorting equities. You have to be super careful. Are there any put supports? Yeah, so put support, just in case they do start to fall during risk off. 5,900 is the first one. Anything else is kind of like lower levels that are not, they're kind of there's a lot of levels on the way down though. There's like Gex2, Gex3, Gex4, Gex1. Gex1 at 6,000, that could be a good sort of reversal area if anybody gets interested in it. But yeah, how much risk do you take per trade usually, and do you copy trade across? I don't copy trade. I have my own personal accounts. I have another couple of accounts that have just been there forever from elsewhere, and I have my Topstep Live. Once you have Topstep Live, once you get to the live stage, you're not allowed to have more than one at this particular time. And you're not allowed to have XFAs whilst you're at a live funded stage. So for now, this is the only Topstep account. How much risk depends on the amount of balance, time of the week. God, this guy's getting a bit annoying now, seriously. So sorry, guys. Like, I don't know why my husband decided to book these guys to come in whilst I'm doing my stream. But I suppose that's maybe the only time they could come in, so fair enough. So yeah, with the copy trading, unless you're in a advanced trader who doesn't have enough capital, I would be very careful with copy trading. I know that we see a lot of sim farming these days, but at the same time, a lot of those people have never been in the live account, and then they try to replicate the same thing with the same size and find that the platform is not doing what they wanted to do, and then they start blaming the platform when it's not really the platform but rather the trader and the exchange, because the order might be too big, and then they're like clicking and waiting, and they're like, but there's nothing happening, and I'm like, yeah, because there's not enough units. They have to find a counterparty for your thing. Yeah, they have to have a counterparty to your order, right? So if you have 20, they have to find 20 of them. If there's not enough units per any single price, that's where you get slippage. That's where you get partial fills. You know, a whole bunch of issues. But yeah. Anyways, I'm going to take the rest of this because they're going back towards VWAP now, and I don't like that. So I'm going to take it for 242 base hit. This might be the only trade that I do today. I don't know. It depends what the platinum looks like later on in the day, but I'll take the base hit, you know, why not? Yeah. So how much risk I will be taking, like I said, depends on the size of the buffer of that particular account. The bigger the account size, the lower the risk. So on some of my biggest accounts, that's my personal, well, it's not actually my personal, it's a corporate account that I share with two other people. But I'm a quant strategist there, and that is pretty sizable. So basically that's 0.35% per position per trade. On the prop accounts, I am a lot more aggressive, so I can go up to 4% per position size if the account buffer allows for it. So obviously if you've got 3,000 in there, that's not much of a buffer, is it? So I will be more on the side of risking a lot less until the buffer is bigger. If you are ballpark 20 grand, 30 grand, yeah, you can sort of risk, when I'm sitting around sort of 15, 20, 30, I do start to ramp it up a little bit. So you will see me trading 1 or 2 minis at that point, risking anywhere from 350 to 600 per trade. And I think that's pretty aggressive anyway. I know that some people would go like, oh, I'm just going to risk 50% of the account on this, but I'm not comfortable doing that after all this time of trading and seeing things go horribly wrong for people. And I'm at a live level, so there's no going back at this point. So I need to be a little bit more aware, because there's no second try. If I blow this one up, I might be able to go back down to the XFA, but I would rather not. I would rather keep this account going for as long as possible. So hopefully that helps. Trading Nickel says, don't be concerned about the background sounds. I mean, this is a directional mic, right? So I specifically chose this one and not the big sort of Shure SM7, because that one is sort of directional, but it kind of picks up a lot of stuff. This one is literally just single direction. So if you don't know anything about microphones, there's the single direction, unidirectional. There's the omnidirectional that picks up a whole bunch of it, and there's the cardioid pattern that picks up a little bit here and a little bit here, but nothing to the sides. So that's your little education about microphones, coming from the former musician, D. But yeah, I chose this microphone because it's like so directional. The capsule literally just picks up whatever is here. So any sort of stuff that I'm finding myself distracted over might not be... It might be just like a tiny bit of noise for you guys in the background, but you can't, you can't really tell. And now they're going to finish when I'm supposed to be ending. Oscar says, my risk in the funded account is global drawdown divided by 7 trades because I risk 1 unit per day. Yeah, okay. If you only trade once a day, that's possible. I would maybe go down to 10 or maybe even 15 the more the account grows, because you can, like, I know that I've run into drawdowns of 6 days. Usually it's like 4 days, and then I usually get a pretty decent day. But I know that I have been able to get 6 days on the bounce that were really bad. Not really bad, because with me it's never like, oh, it's really bad. It's like half of the assigned drawdown that they give you, I basically have my own. And then even that will be varying depending on how well I'm doing and stuff. So I will never go like, 3K. Shit, now I'm in trouble. So, I would go maybe one day, it's like, let's push it to 3K. Couldn't drag myself out of a hole. The next day it'll be like, okay, let's get it down to 1,500. Oops, okay. Third one, 1,100. All right, now I need to get down to 700. And pipe down until I'm out of this thing. And it's just a cycle. It's anytime you're a trader, getting irked about like drawdowns is just like it's a way of life, right? You're doing well, then you run into a slow period, then maybe you're in a drawdown, then you're doing well, then you get out of drawdown, make a bit of money, pump the gas, and then you get into a drawdown. It's just like a cycle, never-ending cycle, and you have to be okay with that. Okay. Okay, Sandy says it's all fine, not annoying or interfering. Awesome. NDB says, hi D, wow, I'm impressed with your analysis. I don't know how the copper trade works out. Thanks. Also, I'm impressed by the singing. Well, once upon a time, I was a singer and a saxophone player and a guitarist. They're actually back there. What would be your trigger to enter an upcoming platinum trade? It's a very good question, and let's end it on that for today. That will be the last question I take. So the first step is that we do not manage to show strength above 1250 because that is where the core resistance is. If we show strength and if it goes higher, and also if it just, let's look at the daily chart, it'll make more sense. And if it kind of goes all the way up to 1300, maybe, just maybe, there's a setup there around 1300, but in between 1250, if my idea of showing weakness through 1250 doesn't work out, then I don't want it anywhere in between that. I will not be chasing above 1250, and I might be shorting from 1300. Same idea, different level. What I will be looking for, though, in case we do get some weakness from the 1300s, is that we go all the way back down to 1250 and show weakness again. But the best case scenario is that we stay range bound, we don't go far from 1250, and we just maybe try another pop higher, rolling over, maybe a failed auction, but it really depends what we have at the time. I cannot tell you where we're going to be in like 2.5 hours time from here. I know what I see now, but this is the London session. COMEX guys and girls, they have different goals, different style of moving price. So we have to actually get to the setup, and then it could be a failed auction. It could be a sustained auction lower if we don't, go higher. It could be a neutral day. It could be a smaller trade because we get stuck in a neutral day. Maybe I can only grab 35 ticks. Maybe today is not the day for a big swing down. Maybe tomorrow is, So it's really down to situational fluency and situational awareness that we're going to have at the time. But yeah, I'm not psychic. I just have a general idea of what I would like to be here. I would like to be a seller up at these levels. Have been banging on about that since last week. And let's just see if we can get that. So, below 1250, selling. Above 1300, if we get a liquidity grab, and if we come back into the range of this bearish engulfing, that will also be a sell. I'm not interested in buying unless we get a huge move down from this area. And then it's very late in the day. We're coming into lunchtime or something. Maybe I'll fade it back up. But, again, depends on the time of day. Time of day is a huge component in what I do. Anyways, that is it for today. I don't know my schedule yet. I'm waiting for Dolby to wake up and to give it to us. But I will let you know, and I'm sure you will hear on the main broadcast if I'm going to be on. Until then, we had a very good copper trade. Nice start to the week. I'm actually not sure I'm going to trade more today. And I might lock myself out. Should I lock myself out with a base hit? Because base hits are good. They build accounts. Base hits are good. And Mondays can be a little bit sketchy, right? Mondays can be hit and miss. So one last thing, chat. Should I lock my account up? Oscar, when you're on a live account, there's no another account. Okay? Hence, you need a higher skill level to make it. Bruno says lock out. Let's see. It's a shame we can't run a poll. Okay, Kevin is also in favor. All right. I'm locking up. I'm working for 90 minutes, and this is it. And lockout. Lockout applied. There we go. Why is that not saying? Here we go. There it is. That took a while. God. There we go. We are up on the day to 42. Base hit to start the Monday. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And I will see you again tomorrow for sure for the Euro trade. Don't know whether I'm on the main broadcast or not yet. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. We've got lots of good stuff coming up. And yeah, let's see what the day brings, even though I won't be in, but I might be watching and I'll be in chat. Thank you for joining me. This has been the Euro trade. I'm Marcus Talker D. I will see you again very soon. Take care.